Hello everybody, this is Jeff Main with Team Reelin the Blues. First, let me say thank you for tuning in to watch the little show we got going on right here. My channel is growing and it's because of you. I appreciate all those who subscribe, and if you're new to my channel, please consider subscribing. Now today we're going to make an anchor. I hear a lot of people talking about all the different types of anchors that are out there on the market. Well, I had someone come up to me and say, I'd like to have you to make me a box anchor. Well, I make a lot of anchors for people. Most time I make the claw style, and people around this area know my anchors pretty well. I don't like shipping them off to people because it's so expensive to ship. If it wasn't for that, I'd ship them all over the country. But anyway, what I'm going to do is I'm going to make a box anchor. Now, a box anchor is nothing pretty much more than just a square. Sometimes they're around 14 to 16 inches, some of them about 12 inches. But it's just a square. Usually they use 3-inch metal, and they just weld some tines on it to help dig into the bottom. Well, they also make a version that collapses, but the collapsible version, it folds down this way, and what it ends up happening, if you got a 14-inch box anchor, it winds up being about 26, 27 inches after it's folded. It makes it really hard to store. And like I say, a standard box anchor, you can forget storing it because they're huge. But anyway, I decided to come up with a little different idea. Pretty much anytime I make a video, I try to put a little different twist on what I do versus what everybody else does. I haven't seen one made like this, so it was a little bit of an experiment. I had a couple of things I'd done that didn't quite work. So you'll see some spots where I ground stuff down and re-welded it. But anyway, we got it put together. So here was my take on a box anchor. Now, if you have any questions or comments, feel free to leave them at the end of the video. And if you have any ideas for future videos, hey, feel free to leave them. I'm always open for new ideas. Sometimes it's kind of hard to think about stuff that people might want to see. All right, so here's what I made. Hard to make you watch the whole video and then show you. I'll give you a sneak peek. This is my box anchor. I mean, you can see they are pretty big. This one's about 14 by 12, but I'm promising you, this sucker is solid. It ain't going anywhere. What makes this one unique? Yeah, I'll go ahead and show you. I'm gonna fold it down for you. When you fold it down, that's all you have. All right, stay tuned. I'm gonna show you how to make this. You still watching? Get ready. Get you a pencil and a paper and a notebook and start taking some notes. Okay, what we're going to be using to make this box anchor is a piece of 3-inch. This is a piece about 3/8 of an inch thick. You don't really need that big, but this make a perfect box anchor. Right now the fat is kind of turning toward those things. If you've never used one, they work really, really good. And what we're going to do here, we're going to cut these off. And I'm going to make this one where it's collapsible, and you'll see what we're going to do with it. What we're going to do is we're going to put some 3-inch hinges in all 4 corners. And to make this one shrink down just a little bit smaller, because what happened when you go to fold it, it's going to fold and it end up being about 24, 28 inches long. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to split these the 2 sides. So what will happen is the 2 sides will fold in and the 2 sides accordion down like this. And all you got to do is just put a little controller in the corners just to keep it from collapsing. All right, let's go ahead and get these things started and let's get them cut. 16, 32, 48. The most important part about anything that you make out of steel is prepping that steel before you weld it. A dirty weld, you can see this is the oxidation and the scale layer that comes on this from the factory. It actually helps because it keeps it from rusting as bad, but you got to grind all that off. You leave that on there, when you weld this up, you'll get nothing. It just bounces off of it pretty much. But we just got it roughly sanded right now. I'll probably prep it a little bit more and get rid of the sharp edges before I put the hinges on it. But I got it cleaned up a little bit, and I'm gonna go ahead and get the hinges and get it fitted. Okay, so here's what we're gonna do. We're gonna make this box anchor about 14 inches overall. And I'm gonna make it where it's hinged in all four corners and hinged on two sides. Now, because of the fact you got a hinge on it, I cut these where they're only 6 inches long. That'll give me an extra inch in between the middle, so when it collapses down, they don't interfere with each other. So first thing we have to do is we have to clean up. Like I say, this is an old piece of scrap I had laying around. These are weldable hinges. I got these from Tractor Supply. You can get them from Northern Tool and some places online. This is a heavy-duty 2.5 inch weldable hinge. Like I said, they're not really super expensive. They're only about $3.20 a piece. And if you've done this like a standard box anchor that collapses down, you wouldn't need but 4. And you wouldn't have it, you know, like I say, about $12 or $13 in the hinges. So first thing we got to do, this is the short side, the side that's going to collapse down. I've cleaned both sides. I got them squared up against each other. I've got them squared up on this seam right here. We'll just go ahead and get the hinge placed. What I'll do is I'll tack it on 2 corners on one and maybe 2 corners on this one, just tacked, and then I'll fold it to make sure everything stayed in alignment. If it did, then I'll flip it back down and I'll weld it up solid. Everything lines up good, so I'll go ahead and weld that one up solid. There's one side. We'll go and weld up the rest of them. Alright, now that we got this one welded up, we want this to fold in like this. So what we'll do is we'll just go ahead and butt it end to end with our main leg here. Same thing, line them up. Make sure they're good and square. Center the hinge up on the gap. And we'll go ahead and tack it in place. And yes, I know I should be wearing welding gloves. There we go. Now we'll just see how it folds. Everything lines up perfectly. That's what we want it to do. Just like that. Alright, we'll go ahead and get this welded up solid. There we go. Again, line them up. Tack them. Works good. Flip it over. Line it up. Just like so. we go. Not bad. Not bad. Everything's lined up. We'll go ahead and weld that one up solid. Perfect. Alright, so you see what we got here. When we go to fold the anchor up and we get done fishing in the day, it'll fold up just like that right there. This will be the other piece of it. So when you get done, your whole anchor is going to fold up into a little ball just like that right there. I'm going to go ahead and finish welding all this up, and then we'll go ahead and get our tines welded on it. Alright, so let's go ahead and get these pins ready. These are cut 4 inches long. All they are is just some good old 1/2 inch round rod. Okay, we got our main part of our anchor made, and you can see I hinged it here on both sides, and I hinged all 4 corners. Now, like I say, these box anchors are about the simplest anchor you can make. If it had made this a simple one, I'd have just welded all 4 of these corners together to form a box. I'd made my little tines like this right here. You can bend these in a vise, or you can bend them any way you need. Put them in a vise and beat them over. Or what I used to do, I had a hole drilled in a tree with a steel pipe drove in it. I would stick the bars in it and I'd fold them over. And when you fold them over, it makes a nice bend. May not be as perfect. Now I use a tubing bender because I make a lot of anchors and sell them. I don't sell this style of anchor. It's just something I was making for somebody just to see if I could actually do it. But what we got here is I got my main frame made. It's 14 inches is what I made these sides here. These sides here are actually a little shorter. They're 12. The reason why I made these 12 is that way when the thing collapses, see it's got a little bit of a gap here. I probably could have went 13 and still maintained that gap, but it really don't make that much of a difference. Now, when I welded these on, I made sure I had them pulled good and tight. That way you can see once they're flipped out, they're nice and straight on the sides. Now, you'll see some of these anchors that are made where they just hinge them in the corners. The only thing bad about hinging them in the corners, you can see it made it really long. It wouldn't fit in most boxes. That made this thing about 28 inches long. Well, I'll show you what my madness is here. You can see 14, 14, these are 12. I cut these in half, welded a hinge on both sides to where I can be collapsed down this way. Now, to keep this thing from swaying side to side, I had to make some sort of bracing on it. Well, you couldn't just brace one corner, because then this side here would collapse like this, even though this side was braced. So what I done, it took a few little tries before I finally got this where it actually works. That's why you see some welds on here that aren't really holding anything. But what I done, and the method to my madness is, I actually took and made these to where they just barely stick past the end here. And I made me 2 of them, as you can see. So what I done was I put a pin here and a pin here. This is just 1/2 inch round bar. I welded it all the way from the bottom. I let it stick up about 1 inch. It probably didn't need to stick up that high, but I got it sticking up about 1 inch. And I made these little braces right here. Now this thing is locked in. It can't move. There's a little play in it, but not enough that it's going to matter. So what I'll do is I'll go ahead and put a pin here and a pin here to where these can't come off. That way when I get done fishing, all I got to do is I'll put 2 pull pins here. You can just pull these, flip them over out of the way like this, and collapse your anchor down. There you go. That's as big as it'll be. As you can see, that's going to work out real nice. When you get ready to use it, you just pull it out and hook them up. Like I say, it shouldn't take but a minute or 2 to do this. Once you get the hang of doing it, there, it's ready to roll. Alright, now we got that part figured out. Here's what I have. I've got these set about 7.5 inches off the edge. You'll notice it's just past the hinge on the past the hinge from where I've got my pivot points. And what that does, it locks the top in. As long as both tops can't move, it won't collapse on you. I've got the sides in about 5 3/4 from each side is what I got these pins set at. And then I just made these to where they work on there. Like I say, if anything's worth engineering, it's worth over-engineering. It looks complicated, but it's really not. And when you get ready to put this thing up at the end of the day, it'd be real nice if you could fold that thing down like that. I'll have these welded on here just like this. I'll probably put 3 on the back side and put 2 on the front side. That way it doesn't have a lot of spikes sticking down, because there is a certain point where you have too many spikes sticking down and it spreads the load out too much. So none of them will want to dig in. They'll just want to set on top of the surface, sort of like a bed of nails. If you put in 10 nails and you lay on it, you're going to get stuck. You put in 100 nails and lay on it, each one of the nails is carrying so much of the weight that it doesn't penetrate. Same thing with this. So I'm going to go with probably 3 and 2, but I'm going to go ahead and weld 2 and 2 to start with, see what it looks like, and then we'll go from there. Ought to be an interesting little anchor when it's finished. Alright, we've got them positioned where we want them. We'll go ahead and weld these on. Get them tacked first. I guess we can go ahead and add a third one on the back side here. There we go. Looks awesome. Now we'll go ahead and weld that up solid. Alright, we got the back side ones welded on, and if you'll notice, I'm putting these offset from those. That way when this thing opens up, you'll have 5 points of contact. All 5 points will be at different spots on the bottom, so that way it's actually digging in the fresh bottom on all of them. That way you won't have spikes tracking spikes and only cutting a single ditch for each one. By doing this, you're hitting 5 different points of contact. Like I say, I probably didn't even need this center spike in the back. With these 2 here and these 2 here would probably been plenty. But let's go ahead and get this welded up, and then this bad boy is just about done. Alright, the last thing we need to do is just weld something on here to tie the rope to. I just had an old piece of loop I had laying around, or you can weld you a chain to it right here in the middle. Either one would work just as good as the other. But literally, you can put a chain right there, weld it up, you'll be fine. But I'm gonna weld a little loop right here, dead center. Pulling on it, and that put it right in the middle of it, and that should put it perfect. Okay, we're about done with it. I just took 2 half-inch nuts, dropped them over these little spikes that I put on here, welded them in place. Now I got my locks ready, and you can see all you gotta do is flip them out and pop them on. Flip it out, pop it on. There you go, she's locked. I'll put 2 little pull pins right here where you can pull them out, but that's all there is to it. Now we'll go ahead and get her all painted up, and this right here will be a done project. Done. Alright, well you can see what we got here. There's the finished project. It wasn't that hard. I mean, it's a little bit of engineering here, a little bit of welding and grinding and cutting to figure out exactly where to put everything, but it worked out nice. And as you can see, and here's what I was talking about with some of the ones that are on the market nowadays that are only hinged in the 4 corners. When you go to collapse it, look how long that thing is. I think it takes up about 27 inches. This one here takes up about half of that. Can't ask for much better than that. Thing popped right apart. You can stack it up or you can leave it flat. And when you get ready to use it, you just pull it, flip it down. There you go. I'm going to drill some holes there and put in push pins, but you can see you really don't even need them. Turned out real nice. Can't ask for a much better project than that right there. And I promise you, if that don't hold it, nothing will. Again, you get done fishing the other day, pull them two, flip them up, push the sides in, fold it. You're done.